Ah, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this lovely Saturday morning, September 12th, 2020. And I appreciate it for anybody who bothered coming by this early on a Saturday morning. I do have to get started at this time of the morning because it's going to be a very busy day, I'm afraid. As mentioned in the description of this, today is my godson's birthday. Well, no, correction. His birthday was 2 days ago. The birthday party for his second birthday is what is today. And just like I did last year, I'm preparing a giant chocolate chip cookie for the party. They enjoyed it last year and asked me to do it again. And hey, I'm actually doing a couple of things in advance that we never remember to do in advance. One of which is I actually have a couple of eggs coming to room temperature. How about that? The other is I'm going to be softening some butter. And I'm not even going to use the microwave. Instead, we are using a Wagner number 4 cast iron skillet. I'm going to have to do 2 sticks of butter. And I'm going to have this over a very low heat. So as this softens, we will get down to the business of preparing the chocolate and the cookie dough. I know I did a giant cookie video a year ago for his first birthday, but hey, I wasn't able to do it on YouTube Live last year. Finally managed to figure out how that works, how this live stuff works. And so I only have it on a very low heat because all I really want to do is soften the butter. Which means we get to do our next step, which is preparing the chocolate. Last year, that cookie made for the birthday party turned out to be what I think was the best giant cookie I have made. I've made several of them, but that one really turned out well, and I did that by chopping up some chocolate in advance. And that's why we've got some leftover Easter bunnies that have been in the freezer since I got them at an Easter clearance. So we're starting off this Saturday morning by murdering some Easter bunnies. That's almost as good as torturing Marshmallow Peeps. Oh, good. Hi. Brian in Connecticut. Oh, yeah, I know you're a regular. Hi, good morning. Nice to see you. Missouri here. Dano Ozark. Boiler Hunky Dude. Ooh, it's a number 4. The butter should feel honored. I certainly hope so. I think it should be honored that it's just going into a giant cookie. And if you've been to this channel before, which I'm sure you have at this point, you know what is going to be used to make that giant cookie. It's going to be old Stumpy again. But meanwhile, like I said, last year's cookie turned out to be the best cookie I had made, and I certainly want to try repeating that. And I did that by first chopping up some chocolate, mixing that in with the cookie dough, along with the actual cookies. This really isn't too hard. I mean, yeah, this is frozen chocolate, which is fine, actually. It'll help so that it won't melt as the cookie is mixed. Oops. Really, the only hard part to chopping this chocolate is making sure I don't cut myself. And yeah, I find a serrated knife to be better for this type of job. Munch. Get some privileges. And of course, just like eating a chocolate bunny, we chop off the ears first. There was a sniglet, if anybody remembers sniglets, fake funny words to describe things. Choconivorous, which was the act of eating a chocolate Easter bunny by biting off the ears and the head first. And as you can see, this really doesn't take very long. These are 3 Easter bunnies. Yeah, this is milk chocolate. I'll be using semi-sweet chocolate chips. And this comes to 9 ounces of milk chocolate. 3-ounce Easter bunnies. Come on, yeah. Maybe I'll do it this way, see if that's any better. Maybe not. Like I said, I've got to be careful not to cut myself. It's not Halloween yet, so I don't think we want any human blood mixed in with the cookie. And we're almost done. Once this is done, it will go into the freezer because I do want this to remain hard for when it's mixed in with the cookie dough. As I do want chocolate chunks in the cookie dough. As I said, it's going to be a busy day. That's why I'm preparing this cookie so long in advance. I'll be heading out to be there at the party by noon. We will do what we have to do. I'll come home and prepare for the next live stream, which I have scheduled for tonight. For entirely different reasons, and I'll talk about that tonight. Otherwise, of course, you're here to play with cast iron on a Saturday morning, which is not a bad way to spend a Saturday morning. So anyway, oh yeah, always use one of these things for your cutting board. So that wasn't so hard. Just gonna get it all over the place. Which I will probably do anyway. There we go. That's the first step. That goes into the sink. And we have some chopped chocolate, which will go into the freezer for about the next, 10-15 minutes. I have found these YouTube live things tend to freeze up every so often. I hope that doesn't happen. Maybe on a Saturday morning, less bandwidth is being used. I'm probably going to have to get myself a Cat 5 cable and directly connect it to my laptop here, rather than depending on Wi-Fi for this stream. And now we come to stage 2. Really useful, nice big metal bowl, mixing bowl, courtesy of a Chinese kitchen store for this. There's one in downtown Boston, one of the best ones in the area. Good morning from Texas. Good morning, Patricia Ramos. Nice to see you here. Thank you very much for coming. Anyway, Okay. And now for the fun part. 3 cups of flour, because this is going to be a double-sized batch. It's a big cookie. And yet, actually, this makes so much cookie dough, I could use an even bigger pan if I wanted to. There would be more than enough to fill up old Stumpy. So we've got 3 cups of flour here. And yeah, I'm not a precise baker either. I don't think I've yet done a recipe that calls for exact down to the ounce or gram measurements. So, just roughly 3 cups of flour is all we need. Making these cookies from scratch is so easy. It almost makes us wonder why we even bother. Vroom, vroom. Why we even bother getting cookie dough at the store, other than, yeah, it is more convenient. And then we get into those arguments over, but they're processed and they're full of chemicals. Well, yeah, but it's convenient. Also, this may cost a little less than that cookie dough at the store. It's been so long since I bought it, I'm not even sure. Anyway, 3 cups of that. One and a half teaspoons of baking soda. I think this box is just about enough. Fortunately, no, you don't. Fortunately, I got another box of baking soda to cover for it. And that's the other fun thing we know all too well. Here it is. You know that little part on the side of the box there, the little indentations that say push here? Yeah, right. Yeah, push here to open it up. Nope, never works. You always have to use a knife or a fork. And yes, this is Walmart baking soda. This is one of those things where the store brand really doesn't matter. I don't know, maybe about another quarter in there. At least my new baking soda is open now, so. And next we do about half a teaspoon, not half a cup, of kosher salt. Which I also always buy at the dollar store because I go through it slowly enough that, just spending $1 on a thing of kosher salt there is more than enough. And that is another product that, brand really doesn't matter. It's salt. And don't tell me I forgot to take that out. I'm miffed that I forgot that, but here it is. Here's an ingredient I've used in cookies that I find really helps. Cream of tartar, which I know a lot of people don't use very much, and we really should use this stuff more often. This is actually the base that they use to make baking powder. And it is just that. It helps to stiffen the cookie and prevent it from collapsing, which admittedly is not as important as if you were using it in a cake. Also works really great when making things like meringue. Cream of tartar. Got a quarter cup there. quarter teaspoon there. And with that, we do something else that I learned the hard way. Gotta mix the dry ingredients together. This is actually a crucial step because it helps to incorporate air into your batter or your cookie dough, which gives you a dough that rises much better, which again, I know with a cookie, that's not as important, but you get a nice, soft, chewy cookie, and that certainly helps. Also, it's really not that hard to do. I mean, we have already gotten this far. Now that we've done that, time to break out. I should have done this in advance. Something else I'm proud to use. One of my Pyrex bowls. And that, of course, will be for the wet ingredients. Sugar. Sheesh. I'm running behind here. I should have gotten this stuff out in advance. Fortunately, it's not taking very long. Okay, we got a couple of these. I appreciate your patience, everyone. Oh, yeah, no, we have plenty here. We're good. Brown sugar. 1/4 cups, 2/4 cups. Okay, now we go for the wet ingredients. Oh, good. It's not going to burn my hand. But hey, look at this. From the time we started to now, we definitely have some softened butter here. Hey, cast iron does it again. Silicone spatula. To this, we use brown sugar and white sugar. And one other thing I learned is that the difference between brown sugar and white sugar in this recipe gives you the difference between what they call a chewy cookie and a cakey cookie. Who was it? I think it was that Martha Stewart video that said that. Anyway, if you use more brown sugar than white sugar, you get more of a chewy cookie, which of course is what everybody loves. So we've got 1, 2. Like I said, I'm not exactly evening it out, but nobody minds too much sugar in this. 3, 4. These are 1/4 cups, of course. 5, which means we have 1 1/4 cups of brown sugar. Versus, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 3/4 cup of white sugar. And to this we put in 2 eggs. And then with our vanilla extract, that's all the ingredients we need for a cookie. These things are so easy to make. Even I can do it. There's 1. And the other. Also, this was a lesson taught by Alton Brown. Don't crack your eggs on the side of the bowl or the side of the pan, because what that does is it forces little pieces of shell into the egg. And so that's why it's better to crack it on the counter here. I apologize if this sounds like baking 101 in lessons we should have learned back in grammar school, but I've been doing this now for 10 years and I'm still an amateur. And I like being an amateur, and I hope people who are just getting into things like cast iron cooking like showing up here for reasons including that one. Good morning from Plainfield, Indiana. That's Michael Metello. Now that's a bowl. Well, thank you very much. Howdy. How's it going in Quaker County? It isn't even used in tartar sauce. Oh yeah, cream of tartar. Yes. How dare you not use a vintage Pyrex mixing bowl? Well, yeah. Speaking of Pyrex here, sometime maybe in a couple of weeks or so, I plan on doing a video taking especially to call out one of the enemies of vintage Pyrex. You may have heard of Miss Lead, the lead safe mama, who is out to find lead in anything and everything and warn us all against it, which admittedly is a good cause, but she basically her rule of thumb is that any amount of lead at all is dangerous. When in fact, that's actually a very very complicated subject. But suffice to say, it is not dangerous in using in things like a vintage Pyrex bowl or the like. What, a Pyrex bowl has lead? Well, no, not exactly. Kind of like pretty much any cookware from the early 20th century and so forth, except cast iron. They took that out. Has what do you call it? Like trace elements or microscopic or the like. So that's why there has not been a massive recall of these things, the way there was a massive recall of the radioactive Fiestaware bowls. But like I said, that's a really complicated subject that we will get into at another time, probably in a couple of weeks or so. Anyway, I'll be calling her out, especially because a couple of people have shown up on my video about Asian cast iron being safe and saying things like the enamel in that cast iron has been she has found lead in it or cadmium or something. So, but anyway, as I said, that's a subject for another time. Right now, we are just getting our wet ingredients together here. And then to this, all we'll need to do is add a little bit of the vanilla extract. And like I said, that is all of the ingredients we need for this giant cookie. It really is that easy. If you have not made yourself a giant cookie, especially with your kids, you really need to do so. I mean, whether you have a 10-inch cast iron skillet or a 12-inch or a 20-inch cast iron skillet, you really need to do at least one cookie. I'll call you out on that. In fact, make yourself a giant cookie with your kids sometime soon. Has anybody tried a Bayou Classic large Dutch oven? As a matter of fact, I have one. I've got a nice huge 16-quart Bayou Classic Dutch oven, which I got, in 2012, in fact. I have gotten a lot of use out of it. I was using it for several years to make holiday turkeys. Worked great. I've been taking it out for doing things like jambalaya outside. It's worked great. And yeah, Bayou Classic and those Asian makers, like it or not, Lodge simply does not make cast iron pots that big. If you want one, you've got to go to someone like Bayou Classic or Cajun Classic. Or if you're extremely lucky, you can find a vintage cast iron cauldron at a price you can afford. Oh, yes, I know. I do have a vintage cast iron cauldron, but that 15-gallon monster, really, really hard to lug around. I mean, I like to do so when the occasion calls for it, and I'm looking for the occasion. But for things like that, if I'm going to do a family gathering and I want to do a jambalaya, I will more likely break out that Bayou Classic 16 quart. I'm told as well that it might be truck outside. I'm told as well that it might even be better to use melted butter rather than softened butter because as you can see, there are still chunks of butter here in this. That's really not so bad. I mean, after all, it is all going to melt entirely as it bakes. So anyway, these pieces of butter are really not that big. Hello from Belgium, RB. Well, hello. Thank you very much for showing up. It's an honor, really, to host anyone at all, but especially you folks who are here, I guess, to see some cast iron, which is going to be coming in just a minute. A few minutes, because last ingredient. And that would be vanilla extract, which I'm proud to say I've been making at home for the last few years. It's not that I'm bragging, but rather homemade vanilla extract, it does require an initial investment at the beginning because vanilla beans are expensive, yes. But once you do that... Isn't it time to shake your vanilla? Oh, yeah, good point. Any moment, I think. Yeah. Thank you for the reminder. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I have my phone alarm set for 8 o'clock on Saturday morning, especially to shake my vanilla. Let me get that right now. And here's my vanilla. Yeah, it's one of those fancy vodka bottles because that's really all this is. In here, we've got a whole bunch of vanilla beans. I think these things are at least 2 years old or so and still going strong. Simply immersed in vodka. Oh, and also some spiced rum. It really adds some interesting flavor to it, and it still tastes like vanilla. So anyway, with the initial investment of getting the vanilla beans, which admittedly is, they can be expensive, yes. But once you have them, like I said, these are going for, it's been at least 2 or 3 years and they're still going strong. All you have to do is soak them in vodka for at least 6 months to ferment them. And then you've got yourself pretty much an unlimited supply of homemade vanilla extract. Far better than the stuff at the store, and in the long run, far less expensive because now when my vanilla runs out, all I have to do is pour some out of this, top this back up with vodka, and keep the cycle going. So, and again, it really is as simple as that. So anyway, the only thing about this is that I have to shake it once a week. So, yeah, I know. Jamie is really amused at the fact that I have my alarm set on Saturday morning, especially to take my big hard vanilla and shake it in front of her. So, hey, here you go. I've just put my hands on my vanilla and, oh, yeah, this is so satisfying. And there's the alarm, in fact. Give me 1 second. Thank you for your patience while I run off camera to do things like that. But anyway, at this point, it's time now to put the wet ingredients into the dry ingredients. And here's yet another thing. They did some research. I think it was the Food Lab, Kenji Lopez-Alt and the Food Lab did some actual research into determining whether it's better to put your wet ingredients into the dry ingredients or the dry ingredients into the wet. And they determined that, yes, it is better to put the wet ingredients into the dry. Apparently, it's a texture thing because, again, we have put, we whisked the air into the dry ingredients, and now we're adding the wet ingredients to it. And so this apparently will produce a better dough. So who am I to argue? Well, I'll argue if I want to, but I see no reason not to take their advice. And with that, all we do is start mixing it together. The oven, by the way, I'm preheating to 325 degrees. And that's because, of course, it's going to be baked in cast iron, but also because it's so big, the pan is so big that we don't want a case where the outside of the cookie is done or overdone or burnt while the inside is still soft. So it's better to do more of a low and slow type of thing. And this is not hard at all, as you can see. So once we have this all reasonably incorporated, we're going to get in and start kneading the dough, because everybody needs cookie dough. I know I do. Did the vanilla come in the Skull bottle, or is that a repurposed vodka bottle? No, that's a repurposed vodka bottle. The vodka bottle is by Dan Aykroyd. He does this thing. What is his official name for it? Crystal Head Vodka, which of course he makes all fancy and everything. It's a decent vodka. I'm not a vodka expert or an alcohol expert. The ones who I have spoken to who know their stuff say it's a decent vodka in an outstanding bottle. It's the bottle that's the selling point. Apparently, Crystal Head Vodka makes a big deal of saying we filter our vodka through real Herkimer diamonds, which means nothing. I mean, diamonds are carbon, they're rocks, and it sounds fancier than it is. We've got, as usual, new age woo. However, it's still, again, a decent vodka, which, of course, probably means that they sell it at an outrageous price. On the other hand, of course, people sell the bottles themselves because, they are nice bottles. And with that, we are about ready to get down and dirty. Put this off. I don't want to waste it. And now here we go. And the reason why, of course, is that this is going to be cookie dough. It's not cake batter. So no, we do not add more liquid. We just get in with our hands, start kneading it together until we have one of the world's most delicious foods, cookie dough. So history says cookies started out apparently as test cakes for the oven to determine when the oven was at the right temperature. I don't know the details of that, but it's a nice piece of history, and that's one reason why they call them cookies. The fact, of course, that they're delicious is a bonus, which I'm sure was done deliberately when people realized, oh yeah, we can just munch these. Also, I wouldn't be surprised if the fact that the contents of the cookies, a lot of sugar and flour, was in fact what they used to determine the temperature of the oven. When the cookie is done, the oven's ready. Let's see what Dano Ozark says. I'll filter vodka through my Ozark gut. Yeah, that's about right. After all, we've got one of the greatest alcohol filters in the world, our liver. Be honest, we all eat raw cookie dough, even with the raw eggs. Oh, no, of course, we never do that. Kind of reminds me of this funny meme I saw from the Lord of the Rings, of course. We've got Isildur and Elrond at the crack of doom. And he is holding up the ring, at which point the caption says, "This is raw cookie dough." And Elrond says, "Cast it into the oven, bake it." And of course, Isildur says, "No." And that is me. No. Look at that. It only took maybe a couple of minutes of kneading or so. And we've got ourselves some cookie dough. Which means now we get to do the next fun part. And this is why I kept it in the freezer. Time to bring out the chocolate. And again, keeping it in the freezer means that it will stay cold so that it's less likely the heat of my hands will melt all this and make it all gooey and harder to knead. I like bourbon through my teeth. Works great. That's why the skull is smiling. Oh, that, and he doesn't have any lips. So once again, this sure is difficult, isn't it? Boy, making a homemade cookie is just so hard. This is one of those projects that is great to do with your kids because, you know, they can get their hands all smushy. They'll probably nibble the cookie dough. And of course, most of all, when making stuff with kids, they're more likely to eat it when they make it themselves, or at least take part in it. And I think we are getting close now to the final step, which is, of course, the traditional chocolate chips. There we go. And make sure the chocolate is nice and incorporated into the dough. Yeah, it looks like I could eat some of this already. Well, if they ask what the orange parts are, well, what orange parts? I don't see any. Okay, now for the last step. Waiting for the flour to absorb all of the liquid goodies. Is there an Glock 30 fan? Is there an art and a science to kneading exactly the right consistency, or is it really just mixing? I don't know. I am not a professional baker. And essentially what I do is I knead it until it looks and feels like cookie dough, especially at the center, which I guess is why I knead it by pulling it apart and making sure that we bring the outsides to the inside, or the inside to the outside. And that's really about all I know about kneading. And check this out. This is a bag of chocolate chips. For some reason, as it was in the freezer, it inflated like a balloon. And I can't figure out why. I mean, there's nothing perishable or organic in this thing that would cause it to release any kind of a bad gas. So I have no idea why we have This thing puffed up like a balloon. I'm going to leave about 6 ounces of chocolate chips out so that I can top the cookie when it's done before it goes into the oven. So that we'll definitely have some cookies and some chocolate chips on top. Other than that, it's just a matter, once again, mixing everything in. This is making me hungry. You and me both. Yeah, I know. But this is for the party, which is why, unfortunately, when the finished cookie is done, I am not going to touch it. It has to wait until it gets to the party. I'm actually going to bring it out at the beginning of the party and let people dig into it right away, largely because I don't want to compete with the birthday cake. You know, you bring out a birthday cake, which is a store-bought cake, and then you put this next to it. Yeah, I'm not trying to hog the attention. It's his birthday and it's his mom's cake, so that's why I'm bringing this in and putting it out in the scent at the beginning and letting everybody dig into it right away. Approximately how many vanilla beans were put into that bottle? I love the idea. I may have overdone it, but I'm using about 20 vanilla beans because that is a 20-ounce bottle, and I use 1 vanilla bean for every ounce of vodka. If nothing else, it guarantees that, again, this is going to last for at least several more years before I have to replenish the vanilla. Oh, yeah, I actually did a video a couple of years ago, at least, about replenishing the vanilla. Look it up on my YouTube channel. And also, here's the thing, is that when the vanilla is done, we don't have to throw it out. What I did there was I chopped up the vanilla and mixed it in with a can of coffee to shook it all up and made had a big can of vanilla coffee, so that you could, use a coffee maker and make some coffee, vanilla coffee. And anyway, there we are. We've got a whole bunch of cookie dough with 2 kinds of chocolate, semi-sweet and chocolate chips, which means the dough is ready. And you know what that means. Now it's time to break out the cast iron. Wash my hands. Also, should have done this in the beginning again. I forgot. Get out the Crisco to grease the pan. And now comes the star of the show. My godson is the star of the party, but the star of this show is, of course, Stumpy. Welcome again, Stumpy. This guy's been in several videos, and if you watch them on my channel, you know this guy very well. He is my number 14 Birmingham Stove and Range Century Series skillet. And I know that he's a Century Series because it has a Made in USA mark at the top, which is an indication he was made after 1966 or 1967. So even though he only has a 14 and he doesn't have the NO number mark that the smaller BSR pans did, they did this with their 12s and their 14s for several years after. But he is definitely a Century. On the collectors Facebook group for BSR, some people argue, and I get this every time I mention the Made in USA mark, is that they did not produce every single one of their pans after 1967 with a Made in USA mark. There were some of them they left unmarked all the way to the end of the lifespan of the foundry. I have no idea how many were made with made in USA marks and how many were made without them. I would have to guess the majority of them were made with the made in USA mark. The reason for the made in USA mark, and I think I'll continue. The reason for the made in USA mark, I was wrong in the first place. I mean, I made this video on identifying cast iron, which I'm very proud to say the #1 video on my channel. I'm sure most of you have seen it. You know, it's the one that has over 1 million views. Thank you very, very much. In that video, I was wrong, and I declared that there was a law passed in 1960 requiring cast iron pans to have that made in USA mark. No, there was not any such law. I misinterpreted a law that was meant for textile products, not cast iron, or not baking products. The Made in USA mark was done entirely voluntary by the cast iron makers as a marketing move because their market was really being hurt by foreign imports. So all of the manufacturers put Made in USA to let everybody know that their pans were, of course, made in the USA. Well, it works, of course, in some respect, in that just about everybody here goes for USA made cast iron over Asian. It was not all done in the same time. I think Wagner were the first ones to do it. They did it in like the early 60s. We don't have an exact year. BSR, thanks to BSR employees who are still around, we know it started in 1966, and by 1968, just about all of their pans were marked with Made in USA. Lodge actually did that maybe even a little bit later than that. I think we're talking like maybe 1968 or so. They started marking their pans with Made in USA. And it's been like that ever since. I would have to guess there is some kind of a requirement, though, for foreign manufacturers to mark the country of origin on their product. Not just cast iron, but foreign products in general. Although in the 1980s, one second, time for the cookie dough. Plop. And all we have to do is press it out, and that's it. But anyways, I do know that in the 1980s, trade laws were loosened under the Reagan administration. And I'm saying that as a fact, not to blame Ronald Reagan. I blame him for a lot of things, but never mind, that's history. As of the loosening of the trade laws in the 1980s, foreign manufacturers don't necessarily have to mark made in made in China or Taiwan or wherever on the product itself. They just have to put it on the package. And so today you can buy many Asian made pans that do not say made in China or made in Taiwan. Some of them do. You still get that on a lot of Asian-made cast iron, but you get it on a lot. You get a lot of Asian-made cast iron today that does not say "made in China" or the like. And it's fine cast iron. You know, there's nothing wrong with using it. If you don't want to use Asian cast iron for political or personal reasons, you don't have to do so. That is your choice, and I'm not trying to influence you on that. On the other hand, if you're a collector and the like, as you know, a lot of ripoffs try to pass off Asian cast iron as vintage USA cast iron, especially Griswold. Also, especially they're trying to make it look like early BSR because a lot of them have lids or are shaped like that. But there are differences. And I've taken some time to point out those differences. So that's a little bit about the history, I guess, of things like BSR, Century, the Made in USA mark, and cast iron being imported from China into the US, which is nice. When I do these live YouTube videos, it's pretty much a stream of consciousness type of thing, that I'm just really speaking whatever comes into my head. So I have no idea I would end up talking about this subject. I'm glad I did, though, because it's something I like talking about, and I hope you find it entertaining and informative. Even this out maybe a little bit, and then the last step is the rest of the chocolate chips. Except maybe I might let Jamie have a few of these. And we spread these out, make it nice and even. And press them down. And with that, our giant birthday cookie is ready to go into the oven. As I said, the oven is preheated at 325 degrees. My understanding is it should be done anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. I will check that. I'm, of course, not expecting you to wait here twiddling your thumbs for the next 45 minutes. And we have already been doing this for almost an hour, believe it or not. So, that certainly sounds like a cue that we are about done for this morning. Okay, what do we have here? Leland Rogers, back in the 50s, Japan named a town USA and would put made in USA on various products, but they didn't do it for long. That's an urban legend. I looked it up. And I think it was Snopes that actually confirmed that no, this was never true. Yes, there is a town called USA in Japan, but no, they did not market products in that manner. So there are no fake Japanese or Chinese products that say made in USA unless the manufacturer is unscrupulous and just plain lying. Always enjoy your history lessons. Well, thank you. Indeed, it was a luxury buy, but love it. That was Boiler. Wifey made homemade pizza in our Grizz number 14 last night. Fantastic. Awesome. Oh, yeah. This is the world's best pizza pan. The people with those pizza steels are saying that's better than cast iron, but this works good enough, and I see no reason to make that investment. I mean, I may change my mind at some point, but I'm quite happy making pizzas in old Stumpy here. In the 60s was the main competition for American-made cast iron, inexpensive Asian cast iron, or the higher quality, more expensive European products. I think it was actually Asian-made cast iron and American-made aluminum and non-stick. It was really non-stick pans that drove the manufacturers out of business. I mean, yes, there was a lot of competition from Asian-made cast iron, and that hurt. But what really hurt was the American viewpoint changed. That cast iron was no longer in favor, that all of these new non-stick pans came around. And even up through today, they are the first choice in many kitchens. So, I mean, while cast iron, of course, cast iron has been durable enough that it is still an essential part of any kitchen, whether or not, you're obsessed with it like I am. But any kitchen should have at least one cast iron pan. And yet, even today, you walk into any kitchen store, whether it's something like Walmart or an elite kitchen store, the vast majority of the pans they have there are aluminum or non-stick, or for that matter, stainless steel. And they are a lot of them. A lot of those stainless steel pans are more expensive than brand new cast iron. Have you ever seen what an all-clad pan costs brand new at the store? So why did Lodge stop making large pots? I am not privy to Lodge's business practices. I mean, the short answer would have to be they didn't consider it profitable. So maybe they just did not sell enough of them. I mean, they are a business. I mean, and that's really the first thing we all have to understand. I mean, they are a great business. They have world-class customer service and they like doing their jobs. But of course, the point of a business is to make a profit. Okay, I better get this thing in the oven now. So, gotta move these cords from my live setup out of the way. Oh, and by the way, I hope there has not... Whoops, there it goes. Like I said, gotta move these cords out of the way. Why did I know that was going to happen? Sorry about that, folks. Anyway. Actually, what I should do, instead of positioning it there, I should position it here so that we can get a view of the oven. What an idea. Here's my laptop. Okay, now with that, here comes Stumpy, and here he goes into the oven. In you go. Bam. And the time is just about 8:30 a.m. So by maybe 9:15 or so, he will come out of the oven. Sur La Table has a lot of great cast iron. Too bad many of their stores are closing. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm guessing the pandemic must have affected them because I know malls have been really hard hit. Bye, Stumpy. He'll be back. Do the high quality. Indeed, it was a luxury pen. Okay. Well, that looks like about it then. So, once again, I can only thank you all very, very much for for showing up here. And as a bonus, I think I will show you one more thing. With that, I think we are done. I've wasted enough of your time. Thank you, actually, in seriousness, thank you very much, really, for everyone who has enjoyed this channel. I very much enjoy what I'm doing and can only thank all of you for watching. So thank you once again. Have a good day. I'm going to see you all tonight, as I mentioned. I've got a second live stream scheduled for tonight. 2 in one day. Well, that's only because this is a particular day for this. With that, I think, as I said, thank you again. Thank you for watching, everyone. And I will see you all later. Bye-bye.